Well, for more on the story, I'm joined here in the studio by Richard Verly. He's Franco-Swiss journalist, correspondent for the Swiss daily Blick. Richard, thanks so much for being with us. Prior to the invasion of Ukraine, it seemed like Europe thought it had seen the end of ground wars. How much has the Russian invasion really changed the security landscape here on the continent?
Well, it has changed everything. I would say it has changed the perception, first of all, and that is true for Switzerland as well. Public opinion realized that war is again on European territory and war is possible. And again, it's valid also for Switzerland. So perception is very important. And then it has changed clearly the game in terms of military defense, military budget, military expenses, because all governments now know they need to purchase new material, missiles, tanks, whatsoever, to defend themselves against a possible threat. And that is true also for Switzerland, a country that is known for being very much armed with a very prominent defense force, but still, you need to purchase more advanced weapon. And when it comes to purchasing more weapon, you need to cooperate because there is this organization, NATO, this military alliance. And if you are a European Western democracy, you just cannot avoid it.
Okay. How significant do you think this potential policy shift is for Swiss politics itself? Do you think that the recommendations will be adopted, and what will it mean for domestic politics there?
I doubt that in the coming month, I would say on short term, Switzerland will make a significant move towards NATO and especially towards NATO membership. It is still out of sight. But concretely speaking, Switzerland realized that it needs to partner more with NATO and especially NATO countries. It needs kind of a protection, a buffer. So I don't see Switzerland leaving its neutrality status because that status gives Switzerland a certain role in the world today. But I clearly see the country inclining more to a Western approach of security against possible threat.
Now, I read a survey earlier this year showing more than 90% of the Swiss population, in fact, approve of maintaining neutrality. How do you think the latest news is likely to go over with public opinion there? How do they feel about the war in Ukraine?
Well, it looks like a contradiction, and I can understand, viewed from outside of Switzerland. But when you are in Switzerland, you've got to realize that people do have a kind of cultural route into neutrality. They want the country to remain neutral on the one hand. And there is even a popular initiative, a referendum coming on to reaffirm Switzerland neutrality and to put it in the constitution because it's not completely written in the constitution. That is on the one hand. But on the other hand, people do realize what I said. They do realize that Switzerland is not an island, that Switzerland is not protected by its mountain like it was the case before, because the Alps, the mountain, do not protect you against drone, do not protect you against cyber threat, and so on. So they realize that you need more cooperation. So what I see is a kind of step further to the side of NATO, you know, like these small fishes by the well, you know, they go alongside the well. That is, I believe, how Switzerland is seeing itself, going alongside NATO without being a member.
Now, you mentioned this earlier, that Switzerland actually has a very well-developed arms industry, for one thing. How well-equipped is the country to join an alliance like this? How ready is it on its own already? How feasible would it be to even abandon neutrality?
Well, you know, there is a joke in Switzerland. We have the most powerful army per capita, but we did not fight a battle for 6 centuries ago. You know, so this is an army made for peace. This is an army tailored to be a buffer rather than a fighting army. Now the question is, you have to take the possibility of a fight into consideration. You cannot avoid it. So what I think is needed is to review the needs of the Swiss army in terms of air defense, Patriot missiles. Switzerland has ordered more Patriot missile defense to the US. Jets, Switzerland has recently ordered about 30 jets from the US as well, and all the kind of especially sophisticated equipment that you need to defend a modern country. So I would say, yes, Switzerland is still a country in arms. You know that every citizen go to the army one time per year until the age of 35. So it will remain, but the reality is that you have to move to some kind of professional army within the army, more professional unit within the army. Then a last thing, as far as defense industry is concerned, to have a defense industry, you also need clients. Because Switzerland industry cannot rely only on Swiss army orders. And if you want clients, you have to sell your equipment to your neighboring countries. And your neighboring countries want you maybe to remain neutral, but to be alongside them, not to oppose what they are doing in Ukraine.
Indeed, Switzerland has, in fact, it seems, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, but it has, in fact, opposed the transfer of weapons that it has sold to its neighbors to be then sent on to Ukraine. Do you think that policy will be changing?
I don't think it will change, but it is clearly affecting the defense industry, because what we are seeing is the German group Rheinmetall, who has some factory and some production unit in Switzerland, is moving them from Switzerland to other countries like to Germany or Poland. Why? Precisely to avoid what you just said. So Switzerland has clearly to redefine its contract with its neighboring allies, maybe not allowing export of arms, but probably as far as component or part of arms, I think things will change.